Witness 122, Detective Sergeant Karen Boyd, please. It's different from the vast majority of murder cases in respect that no body has ever been found. It makes it challenging, particularly whereas in this case, the position of the accused is that Margaret is still alive. As at October, November 2016, and for a period thereafter, did you become involved in Operation Hereford, the investigation to the alleged murder of Margaret Fleming?
Yes, sir, I did. Initially, I was part of the General Inquiry team, and then I took on proof of life inquiries.
Tell us what that means, please.
You are trying to find out if there's any trace of a person alive. There are a number of organisations or agencies that you would expect someone who was alive and existing within the UK to either require the services of or to be registered with, just through their going about their daily life. Margaret Fleming has not accessed the services of any NHS GP, hospital, dental services or blood transfusion services. She has not applied to renew her UK passport. She is not recorded on any social work services system in the UK. She has not contacted any women's aid organisations or other support services for assistance. Most people these days own a mobile telephone, however there was no information that Margaret had owned a mobile telephone.
Did you, as the coordinator of the team investigating, find any evidence of her being alive at all?
None.
Thank you very much.
Did you become aware of how many missing people are reported every year?
I couldn't tell you a figure, no.
It would appear that there might be as many as 180,000 a year. You said that there was no trace of Margaret Fleming having a mobile telephone. Did you mean that there was no Margaret Fleming registered with the service providers? I mean, if somebody bought a phone in Tesco's and bought a top-up card, I don't suppose necessarily there would be any record of that person having a mobile phone. Is that correct?
I couldn't speak 100%, but I think you're correct, yes.
Right, okay. So far as access to medical treatment is concerned, if she had obtained some form of emergency treatment under a different name, then I suppose it may not have shown up on the medical records because they would be searching for Margaret Fleming. Is that correct?
Possibly.
Okay. Thank you. The problem in this case seemed to me that if you didn't want to be found, then the first thing you would do is change your identity. Now, I'm not suggesting there's anything else the police could have done, but when you're dealing with it as evidence, it's possible that she could turn up next week or next month, and if that's a possibility, then how can you say that it's been proved beyond reasonable doubt that she's dead?
We've just entered the village of Inverkip. Such a tranquil place. When anything happens, it's such big news. We're approaching Seacroft. This green hoarding that's up now, the fire was visible through that gap right into the garden. And the flames would be, well above the 6 feet. I mean, they'd be at least twice that.
Bonfire spoken to by the witnesses years after we say Margaret was murdered, but the burning of animal tissue may contribute to the jury concluding that there was indeed some destruction of a body or of evidence. decision is mine whether to lead this evidence or not. I consider that there's a risk that it will be viewed as a red herring, or perhaps worse, as the prosecutor clutching at straws.
The scale of the fire, which was one of the things that drew your attention.
Yes, my wife was with me in the car. I turned to her and I said, please forgive me, I don't mean to be facetious. I said, I wonder who's cremating who. And then for my wife's benefit, I said, oh, perhaps it's a deer or an animal. And I didn't, and I still don't believe it was an animal.
Why not?
Because of my experiences with burned human tissue.
You gave a statement to the police. You mentioned burning animal flesh, but not human. What would the reason for that be?
It was too incredible to be possible. Those kind of things just don't happen.
May I take it from what you say, sir, that during your period of service as a firefighter, you have smelled burning human tissue?
Yes. It's distinctive and it's indelibly engraved. It's not something you'd forget easily.
This was completely out of the blue, burning human flesh. It would be fair to say that that was more than a slight change in the nature of his evidence.
Mr. Neeson, can you think of any legitimate reason for a citizen to be burning human tissue in a bonfire in their back garden?
No lawful reason, no.
No lawful reason. So we know you were a fireman, you appear like a respectable citizen, and the simple question really is this: if you thought at the time when you smelt that aroma that it was human flesh, why didn't you mention it to somebody before 2017?
As I stated, I don't think I could believe it to be true.
Thank you.
Almost every case throws up something which you don't expect. How you deal with it, I suppose, counts for a lot.
Mr. Neeson, you were withholding information from the police, if you're correct today. Why would you do such a thing?
Not deliberately. We live in a small community. There were so many stories, one could hardly separate anything. It's like reading a newspaper. What's fact and what's fiction?
Have you followed the press reporting of this case?
Pretty much, yes.
You have.
Yes.
So now you know, perhaps, how important your evidence might be.
Might well be, yes.
So why is it then that you have changed your evidence from your statement to the police to your evidence to the court today? Tell us why your evidence is so hugely different.
I have no explanation.